for the things that you have done. Yes, I'm grateful for the victories we've won. I could go on and on and on about your word, because I'm grateful, grateful, so grateful just to praise you, Lord. Flowing from my heart are the issues of my heart is gratefulness. I am grateful for the things that you have done. Yes, I'm grateful for the victories we've won. I could go on and on and on about your works, because I'm grateful, grateful, so grateful just to praise you, Lord. Flowing from my heart are the issues of my heart is gratefulness. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart, flowing from my heart are the issues of my heart, flowing from my heart are the issues of my heart is gratefulness. I was brought to this world to preach to every kindred of His mercy and love. In every kindness I show, in everything that I do, I've been chosen by my God to testify. A woman of God, I'm His masterpiece, chosen, loved, and redeemed by His love. A new life I was given to serve. I accept your call. Here I am, my Lord. Wherever I go, I will tell, and forever will I shout and sing, Lord, I will go. Preaching about His redemptive love, sharing God's love and mercy, forgiveness and joy. I will not be afraid. God is walking by my side. I will go forward with His power. The ending is near. I will God, I'm His masterpiece, chosen, loved, and redeemed by His love. A new life I was given to serve. I accept your call. Here I am, my Lord. Wherever I go, I will tell, and forever will I shout and sing, Lord, I will go. Accept your call. Here I am, my Lord. Wherever I go, I will tell. Chosen, loved, and redeemed by His love. And forever will I shout and sing.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Sabbath. I am Inga King, the Women's Ministries Director at Mile and a Quarter Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we are happy to have all of you here with us today. My co-host is Sister Abigail Murray, our Assistant Gens Leader, and it is our pleasure to welcome you to this evening's program. I pray that as you listen and participate, you will be blessed and purposefully commit to live well by thinking well. Before we begin, I invite you to bow your heads for a word of prayer as I ask God's blessings on this evening's program. Dear God, we ask that you guide and direct this evening's presentation. We ask your blessings on the presenter, Sharon, her assistant, Rachel, and the entire EQ team. Grant them success in their quest to educate Barbados on the topic of emotional intelligence. May we be blessed and purposefully live our lives in accordance with your word. In Jesus' name, amen. At this time, Sister Abigail will lead us in this evening's quiz.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As Sister Inga said, my name is Abigail Murray, and I will be leading us out in the Bible activity, Who Am I? So basically, all it is is that I will read some clues, and I would like someone to open their mic and tell me who they think it is I am speaking about. So the first one, I grew up in a temple as a servant to Eli. One night God called me. I became a prophet and a ruler of Israel. Who am I?
Samuel.
Samuel. Thank you, Sharon and Courtney. The next one is, I was a warrior. I led the Israelites into the promised land. I commanded my army to march around Jericho for 7 days. Who am I? Sharon said Joshua. Anybody else? Has any guesses? Okay, Sharon is correct. The third one, sorry. I live in Persia and had a cousin called Mordecai. I married King Xerxes. I stopped the king from killing the Jews. Who am I?
Esther.
Esther.
Okay, Esther is correct. Next one is, I was an important prophet. I lived during the reign of the evil king Ahab. God took me up to heaven in a chariot of fire. Who am I?
Elisha or Elijah?
Elijah.
Okay, so I heard two, Elisha and Elijah. It is Elijah. Okay, the next one is, I was a Jew in exile in Babylon. My friends were Meshach and Abednego. We were put into a furnace, but God kept us safe. Who am I?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Okay, I have Daniel and I have Shadrach. The answer is Shadrach. Okay, the next one, which is, I could tell the meaning of dreams. I refused to stop praying to God. I was thrown to lions, but God protected me. Who am I?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Correct. He is Daniel. Okay, the next one. I was originally called Saul. While traveling around a road, God spoke to me and I became a Christian. I was once shipwrecked. Who am I?
Paul.
Okay, here, Paul. That is correct. Okay, the second one. The next one. I committed sins. I was Jesus's close friend. I was the first person to see him after he rose from the dead. Who am I?
Peter.
Anybody? No, not Peter. I see Sharon, Mary Magdalene. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also think it's Mary.
Okay, well, then you would be correct. The answer is Mary Magdalene. Okay, the next one. I had a sister called Mary. Jesus visited our house. I worried about all the work I had to do while Mary listened to Jesus. Who am I?
Martha.
Okay, and Martha is correct. And the last one, I was a Roman centurion, which is a commander in Caesarea, sorry. I was committed to worshiping God. Peter baptized me. Who am I? Okay, I'll read it again. I was a Roman centurion, which means commander in Caesar. I'm sorry, but I cannot get the word pronounced. So Caesar. I was committed to worshiping God. Peter baptized me. No, please, not him, Sharon. Any other guesses?
Jesus' cousin.
No, please. Okay, well, since there are no other guesses, the answer is Cornelius. And that is the end of our Bible activity. Thanks to all those who participated.
So we know the stories of these Bible characters that we would have looked at in the quiz, Who Am I? Just a short while ago, they faced many of the challenges that we also face on a day-to-day basis. Change of circumstances, victimization, ridicule, disappointment, discouragement. As a consequence, they experience various emotions: fear, frustration, anxiety, disappointment, embarrassment, sadness. The way they chose to view and respond to these circumstances illustrates for us the power of practicing emotional intelligence. That is, one's ability to identify, understand, use, and manage emotions in positive ways. With God's help, they responded positively and exhibited determination, faith, love, empathy, and joy, among other qualities. This evening, we will learn the value of developing emotional intelligence and how we can use it to change our perspective when faced with life's challenges to enhance our relationship with self and with others, and thereby live well. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this evening, Miss Sharon Howell. I met Sharon when we attended the EQ Barbados EQ Practitioners course. Sharon spent 30 years in the insurance industry, much of which saw her serving as a senior manager. Her MBA and Chartered Insurance Institute UK development training prepared her well for her present role as team leader of the Potter Center and the Caribbean Institute of Social and Emotional Learning. Sharon developed a keen interest in emotional intelligence when it became evident to her that she needed more than academic or professional qualifications to be effective both personally and professionally. This led her to successfully pursue and achieve the EQ Educator certification with 6 seconds, the world's largest community of change makers contributing to a world of insight, connection, and purpose. This certification optimally prepared her to be part of the EQ Barbados movement, which seeks to see 50,000 persons in Barbados and the Caribbean practicing emotional intelligence. In her spare time, Sharon loves gardening and growing orchids. We will now have an item of special music, and after that, I invite you to listen as Sharon presents Think Well, Live Well.
I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. It has led me through the fire and the darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Yeah. all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yeah, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, oh, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Inga, for that very warm welcome. And thank you to the sister for that incredibly powerful song. And I want to say, Abigail, those games were spot on. I really enjoyed them. So thank you once again. As Inga said, I am team leader at EQ Barbados, leading a team of incredibly talented persons. One such person is Rachel Cheeseman, who's with me this evening, our social media expert and a capable blogger in her own right. Catch up with her at amillionlittlethings.blogspot.com and follow her social media posts on Cecil and EQ Barbados on Instagram and Facebook. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I remember meeting Inga back in 2019 when we were able to go to face-to-face meetings when I was doing the EQ practitioner course. So that was way back in 2019. It seems like a long time ago. So let's get right into this evening's presentation. Today, I'm looking at thinking well, living well from an EQ perspective. But I must tell you, this is not a lecture or a presentation. This will be an interactive session. So I want to give you a little time to get some paper and a pen or something to write with, or if you want to do it on your tablet or your phone. So I'm going to ask Rachel to start the presentation for me.
Sorry, I'm not, I can't.
You're not
for some reason,
getting
It's not giving me the option to
share screen?
share screen. Well, I have the share screen option, but hang on.
Okay.
Let's see. It's giving me, it's not, yeah, for some reason it's not allowing me to, I have the option, but it's not coming up.
It's not coming up. Let me see if I can do it from my end. It's going to take a little bit of fiddling here. Let's see.
When you press share screen, Sharon, what happened?
I'm trying that now.
Mm.
Y'all seeing my screen?
Yeah, I see on your screen. I
See my
know when
screen?
it's coming up on my end.
I'm not sure
I
where you're
see
not
it.
getting it. You're seeing the full screen? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share it then. Oh, I gotta share some. Give me a second. If I don't share some, this is not gonna work.
We asked, how are you feeling?
Can you guys
How are you
hear?
really feeling?
I think I would say I'm fine, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Just not to get into any details.
Yes.
I would say, fine, thank you.
I'm fine.
Why? Because sometimes we don't want to.
Oh, just give me a minute and let me just go back because I have a feeling that you guys got let me just go back a bit. Where am I?
The share screen coming up for me now.
You're getting it now? Okay, you go ahead and do it because I don't want to be distracted with that.
Yeah, I know. I was
Go
still
ahead and
trying.
do
It's
that.
coming up for me now. Yeah.
Right, okay. So what I will do is just to continue. So I want you guys to have a look at this video. And when it is finished, we can have a discussion on it.
You can see it?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah. All right.
We asked, how are you feeling? But how are you really feeling?
I think I would say I'm fine, I'm okay. Just not to get into any details.
I would say, fine, thank you.
I'm fine.
Why? Because sometimes we don't want to tell other people how we are actually feeling because we don't want to be judged, or we don't want to burden them with our problems if we aren't feeling well, or we're afraid to tell them how we're actually feeling. But I do believe we should be honest with our feelings. I feel
I'm feeling this is my internet.
Okay.
We asked, how are you feeling? But how are you really feeling?
I think I would say I'm fine, I'm okay. Just not to get into any details.
I would say, fine, thank you.
I'm fine.
Why? Because sometimes we don't want to tell other people how we are actually feeling because we don't want to be judged, or we don't want to burden them with our problems if we aren't feeling well, or we're afraid to tell them how we're actually feeling. But I do believe we should be honest with our feelings.
I feel that how I feel affects other people in my life, and I'd rather temporarily give them an answer that would be more uplifting.
Usually I'd say I'm fine.
I'm good, thank you, fine.
I'm fine.
Many times I found myself in my life that I've had to pretend with people. It's not their fault, a lot of it, but I've had to pretend with some people so as I don't let them, you know, just maybe some of them, like I said, maybe some of them wouldn't understand, and probably I don't expect them to.
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm fine.
Sometimes people ask you how you are, but they don't really mean how are you. It's just sort of a thing they're saying as like hello or whatever. But if someone really wants to know how I'm feeling, I will tell you. I would just say I'm fine.
There's nothing more boring than hearing a list of ailments from somebody when all you really need to know is whether actually he's okay or she, or whether there's anything that really he or she really wants to talk about, which is seldom in terms of casual acquaintances.
If it's a sort of ritual, cliche kind of conversation, you're passing somebody in the corridor at work, then you just answer what you answer, and it's usually positive.
Fine, everything's wonderful in the world.
Thank you. So what were some of your observations for this video? I heard words that resonated with me. I'm fine. That's kind of a cliche for me. I'm fine. So what were some of your observations? And don't all run to the microphone at once.
That people generally don't often express how they actually feel. They just say they're fine, when in actuality they may not be.
Thank you, Inga. Yes, so what I heard you say is that we have a response, if you like, that we use all the time, whether or not we believe what we are saying, and we just say off the cuff. So we have this automated response that we offer when people ask us that. So thank you for sharing, Inga. How about you, Abigail? Abigail doesn't seem to be there, so I'll just go to, is it Deborah? How about you? What were your observations? Anything to add?
I think as what the last few persons said, that sometimes it is like an automatic thing to say. Somebody say, "Wait, how you doing? Yeah, cool." And you, and sometimes you say, "And you," and the person don't even wait to actually hear the part. Yeah, I'm good, or what's up. So sometimes it's just something that we say. We don't. It's just like a monotone thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal. That is fantastic. That is so true. Sometimes I had this experience with my sister yesterday. I called her and I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she said, "Morning, how are you?" She didn't even hear me ask, "How are you doing?" And I was like, she's not listening. So with whom did you identify most? Was there anybody there that you identified with? Which person were you?
I don't recall the exact person, but I know sometimes you just say you are fine because, to be honest, you don't think that the person really wants to hear your litany of woes, perhaps.
Yes, there was a man who said that, so he doesn't ask it because you don't want to hear a litany of woes, and that's true. I kind of identify with him because I figure if you really want me to be honest, then I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling. And someone else made the comment that, well, if I think you really want to know, I'll tell you. But these are all responses that we give, automated responses we give to when people ask us, "How are you feeling?" And having had that conversation, I want to do a deeper dive into emotions. And I have another exercise for you. This is the one where you're going to go into breakout rooms, but I'll tell you when to put persons into breakout rooms. I'm not sure who's doing that, but Inga, but I'll say when I want to, but they can start to prepare the room and the rooms, and I want people to do it in pairs. So on the screen, and I'm hoping that you can see those emotions. I'm trying to make mine a little bit bigger so that in case you're not seeing it, I can tell you some of the things that are in that slide. Yeah. So what I want you to do, think of a situation where you felt, I want you to choose, and you need your pen and paper here. So I want you to choose as many of these feelings as you believe you have experienced in the last 30 days. So I'm just trying to get back to your screen because I'm using two screens and For some reason, it's not letting me go where I want to go. Okay, right. So on this screen, you can see in the middle, there's fear, surprise, anger, disgust, sad, happy. And each one of those has a subset of emotions that goes down all the way to the very front. So if I look at surprise, on the next line is startled, confused, amazed, excited, and joyful. And then they go all the way to like shocked, dismayed, disillusioned, perplexed, astonished. So I'm hoping you can read what is on the slide. Can you? So I need you can put a note in the chat.
Yes, we can.
Okay, nice. So I want you to choose as many of those emotions as you believe you have experienced in the last 30 days. And just write them down. So are you done? Are you finished? Have you been able to write things down?
Writing.
Writing, okay. Thank you for the feedback. While you continue to write, I will tell you what I want you to do. So I want you to think of a situation where you felt any one of these emotions. And when you get to the breakout room, I want you to discuss with a partner what your thoughts, feelings, and actions were when you felt the emotion. No, I don't want you to share any content. I just want you, I'm going to demonstrate what it is I want you to do. So your conversation should go something like this. My emotions, and this is, I'm using myself as an example. My emotions were hurt, disgust, and annoyance. And I thought that my friend was angry. She had a big blow up because she was jealous, and it led me to feel hurt and annoyed at her reaction. So what did I do? I ignored her and kind of went into myself, and I said I would leave things alone. And I decided that I'm going to discuss it with her on another occasion when she has become more calm. So it can be anything like that. You don't have to go into what the details were, what the circumstances were. Just say, my emotions were, and this is what I thought, this is how I felt, and this is what I did, right? So this is where I want persons to go to breakout rooms, and I want you to share in pairs, so 2 people per room, and I want you to discuss the emotion that you had, what your thoughts were, what your feelings were, and what your actions were, what you did when you felt that emotion. Okay? So you can send persons to breakout rooms. I'm seeing Chelsea still here, and I don't know who JOS is. So that means that Francia is in a room by herself. So if you could move her to a room with two other people, because Chelsea didn't join her room, so you could move Francia, please, to another
Also
room.
see Jamie was in a room by herself as well.
Who's that?
Jamie.
Jamie.
I already
Okay.
moved her. I already moved Jamie.
You moved Jamie to
Okay.
Chelsea? Okay, not to Chelsea. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, I can see the rooms. Right, so fans, right, okay, cool.
I wasn't given an option to join a room.
Oh, sorry, I added you on a separate device, I think.
That's actually Jamie. Yeah, Jamie is still by herself.
Oh.
Well, you could put JOS with Jamie then. Oh, Jamie and JOS is the same person? I'm a little confused.
Jamie and Joss's mother and daughter. I can, or I'll go back with her. I'll go back with her.
You go back with Jamie?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll go with her.
All right, cool.
Technology wanted to act up.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
can
devil.
imagine. Yes.
That's the devil. That's the devil.
Yeah.
Oh wait, just letting y'all know that we're still streaming on YouTube.
Okay.
You can still talk, but just be mindful of what you say online. Yeah, but you can still talk.
No problem. Yeah. Sharon.
You want to send me a note?
Oh, yeah, I can send you a note.
Yeah, are we all back? 19. Yes. Looks that way to me. So welcome back. So I want to hear from some of you. What happened? What transpired? Share with us. Share some of your stories with us, please. Let me see who's in room 1. How about room 3? Will someone from room 3 share some of the thoughts, feelings, and actions that came up out of the stories? Jillian says you didn't give a countdown at all.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Jillian.
I
It
guess
was
I
5
just shared.
minutes.
Yes, we were in the middle of a discussion, me and my partner.
Oh dear.
And
But you can
so
share here.
yes. I hope that we did the exercise correctly. So I was telling my partner that my emotion was happy, and then I felt proud and confident. So those were my 3 areas there. Do I have to elaborate why I felt this way?
No, but you said that your emotion was happiness and you felt proud. And what were your actions? What did you do?
What did I do? I treat myself.
You treated yourself. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's nice. That is awesome. Right. That's exactly how I think that's exactly how we are when we are happy. We tend to reward ourselves. So thank you, Jillian.
You're welcome.
So who else is sharing? Anyone from room? I think it's, let me just check and see which room that was. What about room 4? I had Deborah, Mika, Joss. And room 3, Francia, Inga, and Wendy. Hello. Don't all run to the microphone. Mika, thank you.
Okay, inside of my group, I said that I was angry, and then happy because I was relying on someone to get. Oh, wait, do I have to elaborate?
No, you don't have to tell me content. I just need to know what your thoughts were, what you thought, what your feelings were, and then what you did, what your actions were.
Well, my feelings were anger and then happiness. And I got notes from someone.
Okay. But what were you thinking?
That I should not have relied on someone so unreliable.
Ah, okay. So now I see the link between the anger and then the happiness. Thank you for sharing. And I'll take one more from any of the other rooms.
Okay, I was in group 1.
Okay.
And my emotions were right. Sorry about that. My emotions were disappointment, anger, and optimism. Basically, the disappointment and the anger was a situation that happened at school. And the optimism was me getting some good marks on my test and stuff. My group did not hear the part where we were supposed to say what we would have done about it. But
okay.
Yeah.
But even though you didn't hear it, can you share with us now, because you're talking about yourself, can you share with us what you were thinking and that led to those feelings that you had, and then what action you took?
Okay, well, I was feeling very, very annoyed. And
but what were you thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking that it is not cool what happened, and
okay,
I did not deserve for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it happened, and the action that I took, I basically decided that it was resolved. I'm not happy about it, but it was resolved, and there is nothing else I can do about that situation but move on.
Okay, thank you very much, Abigail, for sharing. And
No
so one of my colleagues likes to say that, quote this quote, don't let the things you can do nothing about stop you from doing the things you can do a great deal about. So it seems as though you made up in your mind that this is as far as I can go with this, it's been resolved, and that's where I am. Thank you all very much for sharing. And so I want to say that our thoughts really do have a tremendous impact on who we are as a person and how we are. Abba Father has given each of us an incredible mind. And that mind gives us the ability to think, to choose, to reason or act, and to learn. In fact, I think human beings are the only creature that has that ability. Most other creatures act on instinct, but human beings are the only ones who can actually think. We can choose, we can reason, and then we can act. So your thoughts are very powerful, and they become a reflection of who you are. In fact, scripture reminds us, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So that is what we have to be very careful with our thoughts. So I want now to move on and to ask you to log some of the emotions that you identified in this chart, in this log that have just appeared on the screen. I've done a few for you, so I'm going to go through the few that I did for you. So emotions can be described in terms of their intensity and their pleasantness and unpleasantness. So we can see that rage on this slide is both high in intensity and low in pleasantness. So if you look at the bottom axis, you see pleasantness down there, and you see intensity going up. So rage is one of those emotions that is high in intensity and low in pleasantness. Anger is not as high in intensity as rage, but it is low in pleasantness. It remains low in pleasantness. Annoyance is low in pleasantness and low in intensity. So from this side of the chart, you can see that emotions either can be high in intensity or they can be low in intensity. They can be described as being pleasant and unpleasant. On the other side, on the flip side, ecstasy, the highest form of joy, is high in pleasantness and high in intensity. It's a very intense feeling. And so is joy. Not as high as ecstasy, but it is just as high on the scale. And finally, serenity. You're cool, you're serene. It's about midpoint on the screen. So I want you now to plot your emotions, the ones that you identified earlier on your paper. You can just draw the square quickly and put in the emotions, and then tell me, where do most of your emotions lie? So a couple people mentioned things like anger, and somebody mentioned happiness and joy. And so tell me where they fall. So can one of those people just feedback for me where their emotions lie on if they had to put them on this table?
Okay, I'm sure.
Yes.
The first one that I mentioned was disappointment.
Huh? Where would you put that?
I would say high. I was very disappointed.
No, high in what? High in what? High in which one? High in intensity or high in pleasantness?
Oh, intensity, sorry.
High in intensity. And what about the pleasantness of disappointment? Where would that go? Would it be low or high?
Very low.
Okay, yes, very low. So you're on the left side of the chart, disappointment. It's not as high as rage or anger. So I would put it somewhere in the middle, just below anger. Disappointment, you're really disappointed, but the pleasantness is also going to be low. You're not pleasant at all because you're very disappointed. Thank you. Can somebody else share with me?
I could say my first feeling was anger, but it wasn't that high anger, so I would say just above annoyance.
Okay. So it was like you were angry, but you weren't that angry. You weren't at a point of that. So you're kind of annoyed, irritated with it, that kind of thing.
Yes, please. And my happiness would have been not that much, because I knew I was gonna get from somebody. So like in the middle.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Mika. Now, I want all of you to just look at your chart, so where you have plotted your things, and tell me, now thinking in general, remember I asked you to identify all of the emotions that you would have experienced over the last 30 days. So where do you spend most of your time? On the left side or the right side? And I'm looking straight at the screen, and left is left and right is right. So where do you spend most of your time when you reflect on your emotions and your feelings and so forth? Where do you spend most of your time?
I would say during school time, mostly on the left.
On the left during school time? Tell me a little bit about that. What is that?
Okay, so one, my emotions were anxious and overwhelmed. I usually have those two emotions during school time. Yeah. The third one was optimism. That would be on the further right. Yes. So because school is a little stressful sometimes, during that time, I would say my emotions fall to the right of this log.
Well, may I ask if you are an educator or if you are a student?
I'm a student.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyone else? And where do you think most people spend most of their time?
On the left.
On the left. Interesting.
But can you be borderline in the middle? And depending on the situation, you may either switch left or right, depending on the intensity.
And depending on the intensity or the actual emotion, you can be either place. But what I'm looking at, what I'm trying to ascertain is where you think most people spend their time.
I think in most cases, because of situations, persons will find themselves, including me, on the left.
Okay.
But as the situation improves and you get a more positive feeling or a positive result, you may go more to the right than the left.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that because of things that impact on us or in general, most people spend their time on the left. And I have a follow-up question. What do you think that does to the person who is feeling those emotions, spending time in that place on the left?
I think sometimes it gets you nowhere, because I think you mentioned it earlier, you spend so much time trying to trash out how you can solve or what you can do to rectify situations. You do not really look and see what you can do with the positive things in your life. You're more stressed on the negative, and that consumes you most of the time. So then when you can do like self-examination and introspect and reflect, then you will see, well, spend more time on the little that I can do, rather than trying to fix situations that you can't even work out. Look for the things you can do and have a change in that, be effective in that particular small area.
Yes. Thank you. That's a very powerful and insightful comment, Francia. And so what I'm hearing you say is that most people spend their time out there, but really, who are we when we are in that space? How are we showing up? And how are we living? And how are we really living well? How are we reflecting others when we show up as this person on the left. And so my question is, how do we function? How do you function when you spend a lot of time in the left? How do you function? How do you show up? So you go to work, or you go to school, or you go into a store and meet someone and they're functioning from out of the emotions on the left. How do they show up to you? Or how do you show up to them if you also are functioning on the left? What is the outcome?
I think it makes the place miserable, because if everybody is on the left all the time, then no one is on the right. So then you don't have anyone to make the environment light. So then it becomes very heavy.
Yes, and there was somebody else going to jump in and say something. Not sure who it was. You want to make the comment, or is that the same thing you were going to say?
That was basically the same thing I was going to say.
Okay, good. Thank you both. And yes, when we spend most of our time and we live out of emotions on the left, we are living in a place where someone mentioned misery, unhappiness. You walk into a store and you say good morning and nobody answers, or a client calls you, you pick up the phone and you're rude to them because that morning when you were driving down the street and you got to the roundabout, somebody cut you off in the roundabout and you were there fuming over that, and you miserable and upset, and you go into the office with that emotion, and that emotion is full there, and you go in there, and that's how you show up in your workplace. This is how you show up in school, where you're not willing to cooperate. So living out of the left side, where we are living out of these emotions that I describe as unpleasant, it does nothing to help us to live well. So what I want to say to you, that emotions are not airy-fairy things. First of all, they have a lifespan of about 3 to 6 seconds, and there are chemical responses that the body produces. And the reason why the body does that, because emotions are there to help you to survive and to protect you. So for example, when we talk about adrenaline, has anybody heard of adrenaline?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, adrenaline is an emotion that the body produces. We talk about the fight or flight mechanism, and Courtney is saying in the chat she agrees with Jody, they're overwhelmed. When we talk about the fight or flight mechanism, you're walking peacefully down the road and a big dog starts to run you, and your body doesn't have to say to your feet start to move, because automatically the feet start to move, because the body sends enough blood down to your feet so you can run as fast as you possibly can. You may even be able to scale a wall. And if you pass that road the next day and look at the wall, you ask yourself, well, how we get over that wall? It's because your emotions were there to help protect you, right? So what emotions do, they are messages from us, to us, and about us. And because they are chemicals, they're neither negative nor positive. So from what we've spoken about so far, I want to also say that emotions drive people. When we are self-aware, we can manage ourselves by paying attention to our emotions. And so that helps us to engage in strong, fulfilling relationships. There is a quotation from Mark Twain that says, anger is an acid that does more harm to the vessel in which it is contained than to the vessel on which it is poured. And so that quotation, I think, adequately and accurately sums up what happens when we carry anger around with us all the time. We're really not harming anyone else. We're harming ourselves. And I want to share with you an example of something that happened to me. Actually, was it on Wednesday? Today, yes, on Wednesday. I was walking down in the botanical gardens with a friend of mine, there near Waterford. And when we started to walk, yes, Carla is just commenting that she ran from a dog one morning and she never ran so fast in her life. And that is because we have emotions. Your body already knows our bodies are so fearfully and wonderfully made that whenever we need it, it is there. But the thing is that you can't do it again tomorrow unless you see the same dog. So I was saying that we had seen a man with 2 big dogs, and he didn't have the dogs on a leash when we started our walk. And so when he walked ahead of us, and I didn't see him after a while. So 2 of us were walking, and all of a sudden she touched me and said, "Oh, well," the way she touched me, right? I thought that the dogs were just ahead of us running in our direction, and I actually saw something running. So I thought it was a dog, and my heart started to pound. Oh, when I think about it now, I can still feel this thing coursing through my body. It turned out that it was a whole, I don't know what you call monkeys, but a whole set of monkeys that were running through the trees, and I suspect they saw us and they started to move away from us. But when I think about that emotion, I thought, oh, I mean, just even telling you all about this now, I'm feeling breathless. So emotions, as I say, are very, very powerful. Emotions tell us how, as long as we can identify our emotions, they tell us how we can treat other people. And they also help us to build these relationships, not only with our friends and family, in whatever sphere you find yourself. So what I want to go on to do now is to share a model with you that has been used to describe emotional intelligence. So this model is called the KCG model, and it's called that because it's know self, choose self, and give self. So when you look at the screen, you see on the left, the model is in a circle because it's not static, it keeps moving all the time. So when you look at the blue in the circle, the blue says to us, know self. So know self, blue is the color that's cool, is the color used for reflection. And it asks the question, what am I feeling? And how self-aware am I? So when you know self, you know your strengths, your challenges, what you are doing, and what you want to change. Choose self now is red. What does red signify for you? If you see something, you're driving and you see red, what does that tell you?
Danger, or be aware, or look out.
Or look out, or you see it on a traffic light.
Yeah,
stop. And this is what choose self says. Choose self says stop. Be intentional, think of the consequences. Stop and ask yourself, what options do I have? And finally, give self. Give self is green, universal color for
go.
Yes. What do I want? And let me be purposeful. So I'm going to look at know self has 2 skills in it. And those skills are emotional literacy and recognizing patterns. So under know self, you're looking at being able to recognize and appropriately express your emotions. So that's why I went through the exercise of having you identify what you were feeling. Because we say that if you can name that emotion, you can tame it. It's almost like being able to step back from the situation you are in and to look and say, well, let me see what's happening here. So you're able to identify not only the primary emotion, but any additional. And it was interesting that a lot of you did not have one single emotion. Most persons said they felt annoyed, they felt angry. So emotions also, like, they vary in intensity, as I mentioned earlier. So you might go from annoyance to anger to rage, or you can come back the other way. Or you might just say, well, I'm just feeling a little, this is how I'm feeling. Not feeling too, I just feel a little anxious. I'm not really fearful. And then recognizing patterns helps us to look at the habits that we have. We are creatures of habit. So when we recognize patterns, we're able to identify our reactions and choices. And we're able to look at the behaviors that we keep repeating all the time. And so that's what know self looks at. It looks at the emotional literacy, being able to identify what it is you're feeling, and then being able to say, is this a pattern? Is this how I always do things? So for example, you may be able to identify that when I'm anxious, I bite my nails. Or when I am angry, I tend to blow my top. And then if you can identify that that's what happens, the next time you're about to get angry, you can say, stop. And as consequential thinking tells us, we are able then to choose ourselves. Just give me 1 second, please. Rachel?
Hi.
Oh, I was just making sure you were there. Yes. So, yes. So then we move on to choose self. You can advance. We move on to choose self. Right, thank you. We move on to choose self, where we are now thinking consequentially. So what this means is that we are required to weigh and evaluate the costs and benefits of our choices before we act. What does this say to you? Can anyone share with me what that says to them? Evaluating the costs and benefits of choices before they act.
Instead of just doing something immediately, like per se, if you get upset at a person,
mm-hmm.
you get upset to the point that you feel like hitting someone, you would stop.
Yes.
And think and recognize, if I hit this person, I'm gonna get suspended. And then you would stop.
Yes. Awesome. That is exactly what it is. And it works in every situation. Remember that we have the power to decide the choice we want to make. But what we do not control the consequences of our actions. Those consequences are bound up in God's immutable laws of nature. So for example, a world example, if you go downtown or you go up on your roof and you step off of the roof, you've made the choice to go up there and step up because you thought you were Superman or somebody, but really and truly because nature says that gravity is going to take care of that. So you're going to come right down. So when we recognize, when we are able to choose ourselves, we make choices based on stopping, looking back, stepping back from the situation and saying to ourselves, what options do I have? It isn't always the immediate one that happens. The anger may come, but you can step back and be curious and ask yourself, oh, why did so-and-so do that? Or why did they say that? So instead of reacting to what they've said or what they've done, so in the case of someone who mentioned about notes, and I'm taking it that somebody was supposed to get notes for them. Okay, so you can get very angry with them. Say, I was getting notes for me. Why are you getting notes? You can step back and say, okay, I wonder if something happened. And by giving yourself that space between that stimulus of anger and reacting, you are able to calm yourself down and you're able to say, even if you are disappointed or annoyed, it's not to say that you won't get angry, you won't disappoint, but scripture tells us be angry and sin not. You got to get that space in there. So once you are able to recognize this anger, you can say, hey, Sharon, take a deep breath. Our grandparents used to say count to 10. The good news is you don't even have to count to 10. You can count to 3 or 6. and get yourself, and then make the choice that best suits what it is that you believe within yourself. So in true self, we have consequential thinking, we navigate our emotions, we have intrinsic motivation, and we move with this spirit of optimism. So in terms of the intrinsic motivation, you ask yourself, but what options do I have? And do I really want to have a relationship with this person after? It may be that the person is your best friend and they just messed up and didn't get the notes for whatever reason. And you may then say, well, you know what? I want to have a relationship with this person, so I'm not going to blow up at her. I'm going to say that I'm very disappointed, but I'm not going to treat her in such a way that then that damages the relationship. So the aim is always to be able to be consequential, to think about what you are doing, look at all the options available to you and choose the best one. So I just want to, because this is a very powerful story, I want to just go on quickly to Give Self, where Give Self looks at empathy and pursuing noble goals. One of the greatest examples from the Bible, one of the best stories that I like from the Bible about empathy and compassion is with Jesus and the woman at the well. There are two I like, actually. I like the one with him and the woman at the well, and then the woman that was caught in adultery, as the Bible describes it. And so in one, this woman, he met this woman at the well, and here Jesus, go and bring your husband. And she said to him, I don't have any husband. And Jesus calmly says to her, you have spoken truth. He spoke this truth in love, in compassion. You know, he didn't, like, you know, some of us would have said, but that is true, you got a husband, quite you might have in yours, you know, that kind of thing. But Jesus was so calm. He just simply said, so kind. That is who we want to model our behavior on, and how we want to be able to think. When we think before we act, we are able to live better and have better relationships. So Giving Self looks at empathy and pursuing noble goals. It asks us to respond appropriately to other people's feelings, being able to feel concern that comes from imagining the plight of another person. So empathy never sounds like somebody who says that someone who may have lost a child or something, and empathy does not look like this. It doesn't look like, at least you got another one. That's not empathy. Empathy is reaching out with a hug, embrace, even if it is, that's how empathy feels, a hug, an embrace, a siding, putting yourself in the person's shoes and feeling what they are feeling. It's different to sympathy. Sympathy is just expressing sorrow, I'm sorry to hear, but empathy is actually bringing yourself alongside that person and feeling what it is that they are feeling. So empathy looks like this. This widow of Nain, she'd already lost a husband. Scripture, the Bible describes her as a widow. So when Jesus saw her, his heart went out to her because she was about to bury her son. And he said to her, don't cry. And then he raised her son and gave the son back to her. That is compassion, empathy. The leper is another example of the empathy that Jesus demonstrates. He says, when the man said, Jesus, heal me. You know, y'all know what lepers are. Y'all also know that in those times that if a woman's husband died, she relied on her son to look after her. So you can understand why it was that she was crying and so forth, because she knew that she would have to rely then on the village, or if her husband had brothers or whoever, otherwise she might be destitute. And the situation where the leper, the man, lepers is a kind of almost like a situation in COVID where people first started out shunning people, but it was worse than that because there was no coming back from leprosy. Once you had it, that was it. You had to go and live off in caves, and so you couldn't be with your family. And Jesus felt compassion again for this man. And he said, I'm willing to heal you. And he healed him. So giving self is about showing empathy and compassion and extending kindness and service to others. So you're kind of aligning your daily choices with principles and purpose. And you know, and being able to participate regularly in various social acts. So I'm looking at the time, and I'm just going to summarize by saying that if we want to truly live fulfilling, joyful, wonderful, compassionate, empathic, consequential thinking lives, we first have to think with our thoughts. And that's why it's important that you are able to identify, what was I thinking when this thing happened? In a lot of instances, we are not thinking at all. And so we jump and we react to everything that happens to us. What emotional intelligence asks you to do is to think, to stop and think, to identify the emotions that you are feeling, and then to be able to respond in the most appropriate manner. So what I want to find out from you is, what are you taking away from this brief talk? I've summarized in 45 minutes. I've summarized in 45 minutes to an hour what we normally teach in 12 weeks, over 2 hours a session. So, but still there is a takeaway. So may I hear from you? What are your takeaways?
My takeaway is that we can choose how we want to respond in any situation, that it is not forced on, a situation is not necessarily forced on us, but it is how we respond to it that will determine how it will turn out.
Yes. What I'm hearing you say, Inga, is that we have choices, and that we need to make the best choice that fits the situation in which we find ourselves, while thinking of the relationship that we want to maintain. If you remember my example earlier of my friend who felt hurt and I was annoyed and disgusted over her behavior, since I became a student of emotional intelligence, I have purpose in my heart that I'm leaving people alone. And it's not that I'm not caring for people or I'm not interested in what happens, but there are some things that I cannot control. The only thing in life I can control is me, my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. So a part of me is working through, what was she thinking? I'm curious as to what she was thinking, but I'm not going to join and jump up and down and react to what she said. So for us, it's one of the things that we have to cultivate, or that we need to cultivate, is being able to just stop and to ask ourselves the question, what do I want out of this relationship? Whether it's a relationship with your friend at school, with your teachers, with your parents, with your wife, your husband, your work colleagues, what do I want? And when you ask yourself that question, that informs you as to how you can behave and what the choices that you will make in order to achieve that outcome. Can I hear from someone else as to their takeaway?
I really like how you showed. Oh, go ahead, Marcia.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking that you have to be in tune with your signals. I think, right, it's still on the chart here, recognize the patterns. And I think that is one thing that we have the control over, understanding what our response is to certain stimuli are different, right? And depending on how you look at the situation, then you'll be able to see whether or not you can, put your thoughts in action. It's always easier said than done, the cause and effect. There's cause and effect. But when situations arise, you don't always practice what you preach, So it's good to recognize or be aware, because you don't always know the pattern, but be aware, be so in tune with yourself and your responses that you can recognize the pattern, and then you are able to counteract the action that you would have originally, responded in. So that is my takeaway.
Yes, Carla, I'm seeing your hand. I'm going to come to you. So Francia, you are correct in the sense that, yes, it is far easier said than done. But what an emotionally intelligent person does is that if they are able to, one, identify what it is they're feeling, and you can feel it. If you become skilled at identifying what you're feeling, then you're able to see over time. Doesn't happen, you have to notice yourself. And that's almost like stepping back and looking and seeing how you behave over situations. And once you're able to identify that is the pattern that you follow, and believe me, you will see it. Because if you recognize that every time something happens, once this happens, this is how I respond. Over time, and if you are not skilled at recognizing it for yourself, ask somebody who you trust close to you, and they might be able to see that pattern. One of my patterns at night coming home from work when I was tired, I would come home, flop into the chair, so exhausted after a hard day's work that I would sit in the chair for a few minutes and think, okay, I'm going to get up now. And then I would get up and I would hustle to the fridge, grab some biscuits and cheese, and that was my dinner every single night. And one day I just looked at this and I thought, this is horrible. I can't eat like this every night. So then I had to change that pattern by providing something earlier. So I would create something and leave. So when I got home, I didn't have to fall into that pattern. But it was just the pure exhaustion of the day that caused that. And once I was able to do that, my outcome in terms of my health was so much better than following that particular pattern. But thank you for sharing, Francia. Yes, Carla.
Yes, good night. I'm not sure if you will agree with what I have to say, but I'm going to say it nevertheless. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes it is do or die. And I heard you quote just now from the Bible. The Bible also tells me that if my eye offends me, to pluck it out. So if it means that I have to lose one of my toes to save my leg, I will do exactly that and live.
Carla, and so I have a follow-up question for you. Why do you say that sometimes it is do or die?
Well, sometimes you have to make a choice to keep your sanity with everything that's happening around you, all your circumstances and everything. So if it means that I have to remove this, get rid of that person, that is exactly what I would do, so that I can feel at least a bit relief. I can feel comfortable, I can feel relief. But I can't go, I don't think the Lord wants me to go through life, with that weight on me.
Well, as I said earlier, Carla, thank you for sharing that. As I said earlier, you made the choice. It's all about making the choice as to what the outcome is you want. So when you have made that choice, looking at the outcomes, what do you want? Then you can be happy with the choice that you have made. But you're not reacting. It's a very intentional process that you've engaged in. Courtney.
Yes, I really liked how you showed the emotional wheel or the feeling wheel, and it really showed me the root of emotion. So for example, if you're feeling
worry, that comes from nervousness, which comes from fear. And that was really eye-opening. I like this whole wheel concept. So yeah.
There's another guy who did a theory on emotions. His name is Robert Plutchik. And I will get Rachel maybe to put the name in the chat for you so that you can always go and research him. He also has this emotional wheel, and he identified 8 core emotions. We're seeing your screen, Rachel. He identified 8 core emotions, and then he was able to show how the emotions link with each other. And again, he goes through the whole issue of the intensity of emotions. So like you had, as I said, you had anger, anger, rage, annoyance, anger, and rage. But anger is one of the core ones. But if you go further, you can become in a state of rage. And then it also, but those were only a few emotions he identified. There are thousands of emotions. In fact, there are over 3,000 words for emotions in the English language. We tend to just restrict ourselves to a very few, but there are more than 3,000 words for emotions in language. So thank you for sharing, Courtney. Crystal.
What I take away from this evening for sure is that sometimes we need to stop and think first before we react. Because sometimes when something happens, especially if someone have done us something wrong, our first response is to, be angry and tell them everything that is on your mind. But sometimes when you sit back, well, I could think of some situations of recent that when I sat back and think, what you say next will not be, you can be able to say something, but don't bring it off in a very harsh way. So sometimes even if you bring over your point, but it's how you say it. And sometimes when you sit back, you might say it in a different light as your first emotion that you have felt. And I think sometimes too, even if we are angry about something, this is something I choose to do. Don't be angry about something for a long period of time. Like, even if your emotion is really raging at that time, it shouldn't be raging for years and years and years and going on. Like that is not a good space to be in.
Priscilla, you have raised a critical point. Emotions have an impact on our entire body. And if you doubt that, look in the chat and see when somebody said they had to run from a dog. Those were emotions in effect. Similarly, sometimes when you have to do a presentation, you get butterflies in your stomach, you get nervous. So these are all emotions that impact on the body. Stress is an emotion. When we are stressed, we work ourselves up and it builds up acid. I'm not a doctor, physician, but the acid and so builds up in our stomach. You cannot put the body under stress like that continually and expect that you're going to live well. You're not going to live well. And that's why it's so important to be able to look at your emotions and to identify them and know what it is that is happening. I would not want anybody to be angry. Sometimes we are holding a grudge, as we say sometimes. We're holding a grudge against someone. We are angry about something with someone. But do you know that the person does not even know this? So who are we really hurting? Who are we hurting? Whose life is being impacted? Certainly not the person that you're angry with. It's you that you're destroying yourself by carrying these emotions that are unpleasant within you. And so I really want to commend to you that this is not as I said, this is not an airy-fairy thing at all. Emotions are very real, and by taking the opportunity to be able to assess ourselves and see what is going on within us, in our head, or with our thoughts, our feelings, with our heart, and then our actions. Scripture also says that the heart of man is deceitful above all things. Who can understand it? And so that's why when we think, and we have to decide, well, okay, out of the heart, I got to make sure that my heart is thinking right. because you don't want to be carrying these unpleasant feelings within you and going along every day, especially if you are following Christ. Any other comments? Any other takeaways that anyone would like to share? If not, let me thank you all so much for being such an engaging audience and for working with me to help me to draw out from within you what I know that you know, but what you did not think that you knew. So a lot of what came out came from you, and I'm very happy that you were able to share this time and this space with me and Rachel. And so I want to thank Inga very much for asking me to do this. It was a long time that we spoke about this, but then so many things kind of conspired against it. But thank God we were able to get it done now at this time. So once again, I want to say on behalf of the Potter Center and EQ Barbados and CISO, thank you so much for having us. And I wish you guys all the very best. I hope that this talk, this interaction has been meaningful and that you did have something that you can take away apart from what was shared. So even those who didn't share, I hope you did gain something that you can take away. So thank you again very, very much.
Sharon and Rachel, on behalf of the leadership and membership at Menlo Porter, we want to say thank you so much for agreeing to come and speak with us this evening. It was a very interactive and insightful presentation. And thank you for giving us the concepts, breaking down different concepts, that we would need to manage our emotions a lot better. So thank you very much, both of you. I pray that God continues to use you in this capacity.
Thank you, and it was our pleasure.
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear most kind and heavenly Father, we want to thank you for the information that we just received. I pray, Lord, that you would continue to bless Sharon and Rachel and the work that they do. I thank you, Lord, for the Sabbath that we had today, the beautiful day that we had today. I pray that the information that we received would stay in our hearts and in our minds, and that we will be reminded of it whenever our emotions are getting the best of us, whenever they try to overcome us, that we would use the information that we received this evening to apply them and help us to gain more control over our control and awareness of our emotions. Thank you. Continue to be with us, provide and protect us, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome. So in closing, I would like to encourage each and every one of you to exercise emotional intelligence and to encourage others to do the same. Remember that a merry heart doeth good like medicine. So as we go through the rest of the week, the coming week, and in our lives, let us purpose to live well. Thank you once again, Sharon and Rachel, and thank our participants for attending. And we look forward to seeing you at our next program. Do have a blessed week ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Created for a mission, I was brought to this world to preach to every kindred of His mercy and love. In every kindness I show, in everything that I do, I've been chosen by my God to testify. A woman of God, I'm His masterpiece, chosen, loved, and redeemed by His love. A new life I was given to serve. I accept your call. Here I am. I shout and sing, Lord, I will go. Women of God are preaching about his redemptive love, sharing God's love and mercy, forgiveness and joy. I will not be afraid. God is walking by my side. I will go forward with his fight. The ending is near. Our man of God, I'm his masterpiece, chosen, love, and redeemed by his love. A new life I was given to serve. I accept your call. Here I am, my Lord. Wherever I go, I will tell, and forever will I shout and sing, Lord, I will go. Our man of God, I'm his masterpiece, chosen, love, and redeemed by his love. A new life I was given to serve. I accept your call. Here I am, my Lord. Wherever I go, I will tell. Chosen, love, and redeemed